Here we go. The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Sign up for DraftKings Sportsbook by using the promo code RTRS, and brought to you by, we've never done that before, presented by and brought to you by. Notice that? We'll talk about that later. Yep. And brought to you by Adam Kasabi, the official realtor of The Process, serving the Delaware beaches at processrealtor.com, and LL Pavorsky Jewelers, where Rights to Ricky Sanchez listeners go and get engaged. On the show today, speaking of DraftKings Sportsbook, a big announcement about our friends at DraftKings Sportsbook as they become a bigger part of our family by us mentioning them more and them paying us more money. That family. We'll talk about the we are 3 days later, and the protests that we talked about on Sunday are still going on today, so we'll talk about that as well. The NBA has a sort of final plan for returning to play. We will do our review of the Carl Landry Record Club album of the week, and we are joined by, and I think this is for sure, the most celebrated championship athlete in the history of the Ricky. A world champion, a 10-time champion, Bill O'Neill of Langhorne, PA, Ricky listener, Sixers fan, and the first person in bowling history to be a 2-time world champion. That's right. First guy in bowling history. We have a bowling champion.
Huge.
Enormous.
There is, you thought we've gone off season.
That?
But
Yep.
you don't get off season until
Bowling.
we dip into the bowling. And it's going to be, by the way, this isn't our only bowler. We're just going to have dozens of bowlers, asking them all different, specific questions tailored to their bowling styles.
Yep.
Whew!
You thought there were a lot of musicians. Wait till you see how many bowlers we have. It's funny. So we're hopefully this will work, and this will be on YouTube. But I don't know how to edit the song in on YouTube, so I'm going to play it through the mic. This will be like the first time we've heard the intro song for this one as we record. So I'm going to put it in for the regular one, for the audio one. But the video one are just going to get me holding it up to a phone. So enjoy. Without any further ado, Amos and the chef. Welcome to the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast. I'm Spike Eskin, along with a guy who was not huddled up in my basement as the entire Philadelphia region had a tornado warning. That is Mike Levin. Hey,
was it really the whole region?
It was Bucks County, Delaware County, Philadelphia County, Montgomery County, Chester County, and Philadelphia County. So all over.
Was it very windy?
It was fucking
No one else
crazy.
texted me. I have no idea if my parents are safe. So you're letting me know.
There was earlier today, there was a storm. I had to drive back to my house to get my wallet. I left my wallet at home. And in the area that I work, you haven't been able to drive through the last few days because of the protests and all that, and the police have blocked off. So I need my ID to get through. So I drove home, get my wallet, and I came back, and I heard on the radio about 5 miles away before I was about to get on 76, if you are in southeastern PA, take shelter right now. So I drove off onto the side of the road. It was one of the biggest storms I've ever seen in Philadelphia. And then about a half an hour, there was another one here. There were tornado warnings all over the place. It was a derecho earlier. I don't know if you ever heard of those. There was one of those when I was at Syracuse. It's like a combination of a tornado and a hurricane or something. I don't know.
Wow.
Yeah. So here I am. Just another thing as as the craziness of 2020 keeps going. So
It's quite a few things.
yeah, it's a lot of
Quite a few
things.
things.
Not a lot of them good, actually. I'm hoping the second half of the year is sort of balanced out. Um, you know, like a 3-point shooter who misses his first six.
Oh, we've missed a few.
Yeah.
We've missed quite a few.
Yeah.
We really have.
So it's still all the protest stuff is still strong in it seems like most cities. It is in Philadelphia. It has the the
Is there
looting.
still a curfew there?
There is today. It is 6 to 6, and yesterday I think it was 8 to 6. Um,
Insane.
yeah, and uh, it has it does seem as if um, it has like become more organized. I guess on both sides. On the protest side, it's become more organized, and on the city side, it's become more organized. They know what streets they're closing off and all that sort of stuff. So it's gotten still there's still a lot, but the it does seem as if the looting part of it has subsided to a great degree. But that's still going on. It's actually like I'm I would say like I'm actually heartened by the fact that it keeps going everywhere. I mean, like
Yeah,
we've seen not just with this sort of stuff, but we've seen attention spans in general with everything wane to such a degree that you almost expect these things like, oh, everybody will get bored in 3 days and then they'll be on to something else. But I'm sort of encouraged and happy that like that people are not forgetting, and that they
totally.
continue to do it. Yeah.
I agree with that so much. We talked about this a little bit on Sunday, and we don't want to make it the whole podcast because that's not what you're here for. But we like it is something, and it's something that I'm thinking about all the time, and it is sort of derailing any productivity I can do on a work schedule.
Hmm.
It's yeah. When Pat and I like are writing, it's like if we get like 15 decent minutes in without having an existential crisis, it's like, oh, we're on a nice streak. Um, it's just insane. It's insane, and we're out here protesting about black people getting murdered by cops at an alarming rate. Like people protesting police violence that is very clear what the protests are for,
Hmm.
and it is resulting in a blatant display of more police violence. It's proving the point pretty clearly. I've just recommend Pod Save the People is an excellent podcast. I've listened for years. It's DeRay McKesson, it's Brittany Packnett, it's Samson Youngway and Clint Smith, and they spent years, far more than I have, educating listeners and me specifically on being activists for simple solutions that like banning chokeholds or like requiring officers to exhaust other options before using force, like that all cities can adopt right now to make people safer. Like simple stuff. And it's not like this isn't I should have said this first. Like it's not a Democrat or Republican thing, like at
No,
all.
no.
At all.
Yeah.
It's
There,
happening in blue states, in
yeah.
blue cities, red states, town everywhere. Philly, New York, LA, Minneapolis, all over the country. And I'm just like I'm so angry, and I'm like have the privilege to be angry because I've felt these things for a while, but they feel especially fresh in the current climate. So like what a luxury it is to not have thought about this every day for my whole life. But I'm so angry. I'm angry at my Democratic mayor Eric Garcetti. He fucking sucks. He's awful. I think about his face. I want to punch his fucking face in his smug little like banker's face. He just looks like he got like work at a bank or like work at like the board of Uber or something. I just want to like hit. Oh,
This is not
awful.
an actual
Um,
threat from Mike. He is just saying that's how he feels.
I don't know. I don't know.
Eh,
I don't know.
I know. I know.
Um,
Come on, you're not go out of
and,
the
and
house all the way to where Gil Garcetti is with COVID out there. Come
that's true. That's true. I've just been like I've been impressed. I've been out there a couple times this week, and I've been impressed and proud of everybody on the least that I follow on Twitter, and like namely like the people in Dumb Sixers Twitter, this community which has come together for far dumber things than this, but for something as important as this, for people hitting the streets. That's part of being a democracy. I'm proud of these guys, and it's tough with the curfews, which is just an excuse for police to be more aggressive and arrest more people and be militarized and showing up to peaceful protests in riot gear and making things worse. Who were they? I mean, white guys in Fishtown. Did you see those?
Yeah,
The white guys that
yeah,
got
yeah.
to like come out with bats and racial slurs and homophobic slurs and jeans from 2004.
Which is the worst
Uh,
offense.
they're the
Yeah,
ones like,
yeah.
yeah, definitely. They're the ones like being violent, and they're fine. They don't get. They're fine. They get to like do whatever they want. It's disgusting. It's racist. And it's everywhere. And so, like, what can we do? You can educate yourself. You can donate. Lots of bail funds around the country seem to be getting flooded with donations. That's excellent. I've been calling my representatives, Democratic and Republican, local and federal, because this isn't like it's not. Oh, it's not okay. It's not even close to okay. Tobias Harris wrote something great for the Players Tribune. He's been very vocal about this. I really appreciate that. I don't know if you saw the baseball article in the Athletic that Jimmy Rollins and Ryan Howard were in.
Well, they did like a
Uh,
whole chat, right? I think they did. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
the chat. Yeah, I
yeah.
just read the article, but yeah, it was the talking about some of the racism they experienced during the time in Philly. Pretty heavy. Ryan Howard told a great and devastating story. Malcolm Jenkins in the news calling out Drew Brees. That was great. There's been, and I'm trying to, like you said before, I'm trying to hold on to like the pieces of good news that have come out of this already, and hopefully more in the coming days and weeks. There's some local,
Well, I
some
think I think you
in different places in the
arresting
country,
those
but
other three cops, increasing the charge on the one
yeah,
cop. That's all. Like, one thing you said was important was like the things that they can introduce right now. Like a lot of times
yeah,
the message is like end racism, which is like wonderful and
which
great,
is
but it
nothing. And you post a black square, and it's
yeah.
like, all right, let me pat myself on the back and
I,
call
I
it a
meant
day.
I
It's
mentioned to
not enough.
somebody at work today, like end racism is like when somebody goes, "I want to get in shape," and like, that person never gets in shape, right? Like when
Mhm.
it's the person who says, "I'm going to lose 20 pounds in the next 2 months." That's the person who loses 20 pounds. And when you start talking
Mhm.
about like specific things, yeah,
Here's what I'm gonna do.
this is the first thing we got to do. And if we do X, Y, Z, then even if we don't stop people from being racist, we can stop the effects that they're having. And then hopefully, as the
Mhm.
world evolves, and I think it's evolved, we're still so far from where it needs to be, but comparison of where it was
Absolutely.
50 years ago is far. Um, it needs to keep going. And I think that those things are important. And I think the people that can vocalize those things, like that, what things need to happen are important as well. So, and
Yeah.
finally to your
I,
point about it not being a Republican or Democrat issue, it isn't, because this is all like libertarians who are further right than Republicans or whatever would have an enormous problem with using force on protesters. Like they want as much fucking freedom as possible, right? And to your point of there's a Democrat mayor in Philadelphia and a Democrat governor, and it's all this, and hopefully like the widespread effect of this will I through this conflict, I do see a world in which people are more together on these sorts of things.
I hope that that is the case, and I feel conflicted about that, and I feel conflicted to say like over the past 50 years it has gotten better, but like police violence has gotten worse. Um, I thought you made a great point the last podcast about keeping our eye on
Hmm.
the ball. Um, that is what this is about. Police violence against predominantly Black Americans, and I think you might also mention like local news showing like looting porn as if like property damage is the real plague on this country. That's the big issue. Like in a pandemic, when people like lost their health care because they lost their job in a pandemic, as cops are like tear gassing
Well, and
protesters
and I want to be clear to
um,
that.
to fuck up their lungs in the pandemic. Though it's like it's not property damage. If we solve the problem of police violence, you wouldn't have
Right,
property damage. It's
right.
simple
I,
as
I
that.
agree. I think like I certainly don't want to discount those who I remember texting Lee because Lee's store is on Chestnut, and when it was
Hmm.
happening the first night, and I was like worried for him. Like here's 30 years of his work, and like but and that is horrible to business owners who had that happen. It's like it's
Hmm.
horrible. But to your initial point, like that's not why all of this is happening. It is an unfortunate result of what has happened, but it is not like the source issue of why the protests happen
Right.
and like the largely unlooting, unvandalizing protests are happening. So
Right. Right. And it's easy to blame the president, but it's not. It's like way more than that. And it is there are a lot of Democratic local politicians that are just sitting on their hands right now and letting it happen. And I'm mad and I'm terrified. But like you said before, I'm also like inspired by this moment and hoping that it makes a difference. And if like black activists who have been at this for decades, if they can be optimistic, then I'm also going to be optimistic. We just got to keep pushing. And it is really hard to give a shit about basketball coming back, by the way, in this moment. But I'm going to try.
Well,
I'm going to try to
can walk and chew gum, you know, yeah, I don't know. I believe in it. Like there's a lot of time in the day when you, like we spend 3 hours a week doing this. Come on, there's got to be some other hours, or, you know. So, we'll find them. Actually, hold on one second. No, screw it. I wonder if am I using the right camera? Oh, I am. All right, good. All right. What do we got? Oh, well, speaking of basketball coming back. So this isn't approved yet, but this from Woj and Ramona Shelburne and all that, this is what it looks like it's going to be. 22 teams in Orlando starting on July 31st. 13 of the teams will be Western Conference.
70% of teams make the playoffs.
Well, no, it's not playoffs yet. So 22 teams go.
That's basically, this is if people are excluded, then it's a playoff. You know what I mean?
No, sort of, yeah.
It's a pre-playoff into a further playoff.
Right. It's sort of like a playoff tournament into a playoff tournament. So 13 Western Conference teams, basically the 8 playoff teams, and then the 5 afterwards, and then 8 Eastern Conference teams. Or no, the Wizards are there too, right? 9 Eastern Conference teams? 9 Eastern Conference teams, right? Because the Wizards are there.
Yeah, the Wizards are the only Eastern Conference non-playoff team entering the non-playoff division.
And by the way, it would behoove them to lose all 8 games for lottery purposes, by the way. So each team will play 8 regular season games. And you're just going to play your actual schedule. If one of the games is against a team that isn't there, you'll skip to the next game. The Sixers wind up with a pretty easy schedule that I'm sure they will totally fucking ruin.
Can I tell you I did not look at the Sixers schedule, but I did look at the Thunder schedule.
Because you understand what's important. Yeah.
That's what's important.
The Sixers play Orlando like 6 times in the 8 games, and then Indiana 4 more times in the 8 games. So then,
amazing how that math works out.
The playoffs are. It's just the top 8 seeds, but if the 9th seed is within 4 games of the 8th seed, then there is a play-in tournament, I guess.
Let's go.
And then my favorite part of it.
Let's make it as complicated
as
possible.
It is very hilarious how they're adding extra elements that aren't fun at all. Like they're like, what can we do? Let's make sure San Antonio's there. Yeah, who cares? One of my favorite things. The article is not very long, but one of them was like for health security measures. The Disney World staff, the hotel staff, is not allowed into the players' rooms. So, not to judge them or anything, but I've been around men in their 20s. Who's cleaning the rooms? Are they cleaning their own rooms? What's going on here? How's that happening? Is the staff really not allowed in the room? Maybe when they're not. Maybe when they're there, they're not allowed in the room. I don't know.
It's as if this whole thing is just as if we're playing Sims, and there's just no human error or variance whatsoever. It is just you drop your little guy, and then he just stays in his little room, and he just like bops around, and he runs into a wall, and whatever the fuck. It's insane. It is genuinely insane. I mean, you can look at, elementary schools or whatever that are like, this hallway is only one way. You can't go down this hallway. You have to just go this straight way. And it's like, they're 4th graders are going to do that?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? It's all, I mean, I know people have got to get back to normal or whatever they can do for normal in some way, but holy hell, this is, it just seems like everyone, maybe in a lab this could work, but there's going to be,
we'll see.
I don't know. Maybe don't be pessimistic, whatever.
Look, if it works out, it'll be awesome. We'll have basketball playoffs. Yeah.
It'll be awesome.
We'll
have a playoff tournament to get to the playoffs.
Maybe before the Eastern Conference Finals with the Sixers and the Bucks, Giannis will get a completely non-symptomatic case of COVID.
Wow. I punch Garcetti in the face. You want to give this guy a fucking
I
lifetime
said
illness?
non-symptomatic is what I obviously don't hope
Wow.
that. So we're still 2 months away. When they report for camp or whatever, I'll start believing it. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, same. I cannot look at the 8-game schedule and whatever that looks like. Blah blah blah. I mean, like, how many gyms are there to play in? Honestly,
Well, they're gonna
or they're going to be multiple games
no,
at once.
yeah,
Like, are they going to be playing games like
yeah.
9 in the morning?
They said summer league like type, so they're gonna do like 4 games a day, I guess.
What a disgusting way to use my favorite thing of the year against me. You say summer league type.
Yeah, no
Fucking
summer league,
pull
fall
me in.
league. Maybe
I'm
it'll be
not
fall
doing it.
league. Can you
It is
imagine?
fall
Can you
league.
imagine if they do fall league, like instead of summer league, if they switch this forever, then we're going to be doing podcasts about some fall league while the Eagles are in the heart of their schedule.
That's pretty good. It also, I will say, not going to Vegas when it's 115
Plus,
degrees.
right?
If we ever go to Vegas again, that
Yeah.
actually does sound nice.
So the Rice Ricky Sanchez podcast, this is our DraftKings announcement, is so DraftKings has been a believer. Have they been advertising on the pod for what? Like over a year now? DraftKings Sportsbook.
For sure. And they should know better by now. Inexplicably they don't, but thank you very much.
Thank you to DraftKings first. I've mentioned it before, but Ethan over at DraftKings has been a listener and an advocate, and they were so thrilled with like the way everything worked out. Like they, of course, in the past they've sponsored the Fly the Process and and I'll mention this in a bit, they were actually a large part of the Zoomathon, and some of that is coming too. And they were like, we want to do something like bigger than you've done. And I was like, well, I don't like on a regular basis. So I said, we've never had like a presenting sponsor that at the top of the podcast, every podcast, whether we talk about DraftKings and the thing or not, it'll be you guys always. And they were like, we're in. And they're like, we want to do more of those stupid bets that you always propose to us. We want to.
That's wild that they like that. I would. My instinct was that they would be offended by it. Like a prop bet of how many times I like itch my nuts on a podcast or something. And
yeah,
they
like ideas, right? Like they're looking for people who. So DraftKings is now the presenting sponsor of the Rights Ricky Sanchez podcast. As part of it, and we'll talk about what they have going on this week. They'll be part of all of our events, but they've also they're making a lump donation, like back from Zoomathon, but adding more. So we're doing a sizable donation to Campaign Zero, which is a really good charity that has been going around a lot lately. It's really interesting how it started. It started because there was criticism of the Black Lives Matter movement that there wasn't like any policy suggestions. So Campaign Zero has actual policy suggestions, so it's good. Also to Providence Animal Center and Coded by Kids. They also paid for the Zoom platform that we used. So that was another $2,000 that we could donate to the charities. And they will be the presenting sponsor of the pod.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really exciting. So thank you to DraftKings Sportsbook for being a part of it. It's really neat. Like we love our local sponsors, but to get like a national sponsor and say we want something special from you is really neat. So thank you. Yeah.
Kings.
So DraftKings Sportsbook this weekend, UFC 250, which Mike will not be watching, but you can. No. And you can bet on it with DraftKings Sportsbook. You only bet on it with DraftKings Sportsbook. The first big sports event of June, UFC 249 was good, but this one is going to be better. Back into the octagon, a sign-up bonus from DraftKings Sportsbook of up to $1,000 by using our code RTRS.
How would you do in the octagon?
Me in the octagon? I would be fucking terrible in the octagon. I mean, what's that? Yeah, well, I actually don't think the shape of the ring would have much effect on how bad I would be at professional fighting. all sort of different bets they have for MMA and UFC. You can pick one fighter per matchup. You can do parlays within the card. You can bet on which round you think the fight will end. Like if you were betting on a fight with me, you would, even if it was minus 10,000 that it would end in the first round, you would bet that. And for a limited time, DraftKings Sportsbook and Casino is offering a profit boost on every fight on the main card. That's right, a 50% profit boost on every fight on the main card for a UFC 250. And I mentioned they have the casino too. I still play the blackjack 3 times a week. I have a trick to not losing money that I'll explain next time we talk about DraftKings. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook and Casino app now. Use code RTRS when you sign up for a limited time. All new users get a sign-up bonus of up to $1,000. That is right. The DraftKings Sportsbook has a sign-up bonus of up to $1,000. Enter code RTRS and get your sign-up bonus up to $1,000. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook and Casino. Here it goes. Must be 21 or older, Pennsylvania only, in partnership with Meadows Racetrack and Casino. Bonus comprised of a first deposit bonus and a first bet match, each up to $500. Deposit bonus requires 25 times playthrough. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Not bad. Back to the Ricky. Thank you, DraftKings. So we have Bill and Neil coming up in a bit. Carl and
Do you think? Wait, closing the book on the playoff thing, which is what do you think the Sixers will be good at? Like this kind of haphazard, crazy, no home team.
Nope.
Like bizarre, waitlisted. Everybody's tired or like out of shape or in shape. Like what kind of team do you think would be good at that? And do you think the Sixers, is it just weird enough for the Sixers to be good?
So everyone is banking on this is weird. This is something that we would definitely win. Nope. This is fucking.
I definitely don't think I think the Sixers will find a way to make it weird. I don't know that they will. I don't think it's a game.
So here's the way I think about it very simply. I think it's totally fucking terrible for them. I think I see a 7-game series in which they have 0 home games. And like that people ask why they were good at home and bad on the road. I don't think they were intimidated by road crowds. I think that they had a problem like getting up for it, and they got up for a home crowd. And in an empty gym with a season that has been on pause for 3 months, with a team that never got into a flow anyway, like I'm not buying it. And I think it benefits teams like Milwaukee knows how they play, Toronto knows how they play, and even Boston knows how they play. And I don't think this benefits the Sixers at all. I think it.
Let me make I think that's
oh, wow.
I think it's correct.
Okay.
In the way that I can't. Yeah, I think there's a world where it benefits them, but I think it's such a wild variable that we just don't know. I think there's a world where, because the Sixers have length and physicality, if everybody sucks, at least the Sixers can like rebound and like kind of defend.
Rebound?
At least defend.
Can they rebound? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. They have 2 good rebounders.
No, I mean Tobias is a fine rebounder.
Horford's
okay. It's fine. Ben's a great rebounder. They're getting there. Josh gets up. That's not the issue with this team. It's that if we are playing like clunky 90s basketball because everybody has no rhythm whatsoever, the Sixers have as much of a chance as anyone. I'm holding out hope. If everyone sucks, then it's an even playing field.
Yeah, I don't think everybody's going to suck, though. I agree with that. I don't think everybody's going to suck. But we'll see.
Yeah. Do you think are there going to be like, if it is one gym, and I don't,
there's got to be more than one. There's got to be more
than one.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if are there going to be like during a Sixers Nuggets game? Is like Bam Adebayo just going to walk up and just kind of like sit in the crowd by himself?
I think that could happen. I think that's cool. One thing I might have brought up on a pod, but I don't know that anyone has mentioned, is that during timeouts, the one team will be able to hear what the coach on the other team says. Are they going to do white noise machines in between the benches? They're going to have to, right?
Everybody put on sound canceling headphones.
I'm looking forward to the weirdness of it. I really
give me the weirdness. I don't care. I mean, maybe we're just so far removed from the season that when it gets back up and going, I will feel like the old Sixers feelings I always feel of just like, pressing so hard for
Hmm.
wanting them to win and hating every moment of it. Um, but at this point, because it's the asterisk is like, blots out the sun, I I'm just here to just enjoy whatever the weird product is. If they happen to get this off the ground, if it really goes all the way that we're playing basketball games in Disney World with 22 of the 30
It's
teams,
awesome. Come on.
it's so
It's
fucked
awesome.
up. And if nobody ends up getting hurt out of this or very sickly ill, then what a miracle that would be. And so I'm not my expectations are they couldn't be lower. Uh let's just enjoy whatever oddness we get because every day right now feels like it's the same day we're living again and again. And at least if it's safe, if everybody's into it, I'm under no circumstances trying to force anybody to go back, especially force anybody to go back that people are saying just go play sports, shut up and dribble. Like it couldn't be
I think
further
they
from
want to
that.
play.
But if it happens to get off the ground, if it happens to do it and they really are playing, let's just enjoy whatever weird shit
Sure.
comes our
I
way.
mean, this is like, come on. Like anything that is insignificant should be insignificant from now on. Like we should be able to do this very easily now. Like this shouldn't be stressful, though I'm sure it'll be stressful for all of us. Um,
Absolutely.
the Carl Landry Record Club selection this week was selected by one Butch Walker, and it is
Hmm.
Shelby Lynn.
I like
You
that.
liked him? It was cool. It was cool, right?
Yeah, what a guy.
Shout out to Legs, who has done. He told me he has done nothing. Legs needed music to listen to, so he's done nothing but listen to the Ricky and Butch Walker. He's listened to the whole catalog since the pod. So yeah, thank you, Butch. That was fun. He suggested Shelby Lynn. I am Shelby Lynn. So it came out in 2000. It was like Brian Bottrell co-produced it and like played a lot of instruments on the record, and he is famous for, and I thought it was interesting after I read that he did the record because thinking about Tuesday Night Music Club by Sheryl Crow, which was a great album, a lot of it stolen but still a great album, and it reminds me of it a lot. And the other thing that I thought was interesting too was she is, when I mentioned to Jason, our friend Jason from Billboard, he referred to her as a country artist, and I think Butch did too, but it didn't seem so country-y to me. It had a lot of different influences in it, and I could hear the country in it, but it definitely had a lot of soul in it almost, and there was some rock in it, and it was there was a lot of stuff. I could hear why Butch Walker was a fan. I liked it a lot. I don't know how you felt, but I liked the record a lot.
Yeah. I like country music, and I like country music that has like a different, like little spin on the ball, with a little, whether that's like soul or funk or
Yeah.
um, like a little folksy kind of thing. And I thought it kind of grooved in between those things. And I again don't really know how to talk about music in a smart way, but I liked it, and I thought
Yeah.
it was nice.
I liked it too. There were two songs that I liked in particular. One called "Where I'm From," and then another one called "Life Is Bad," which the title felt apt. So Shelby Lynn, it is. I am Shelby Lynn. It's on Spotify, and I would, we include the Spotify links when we do this because it's the easiest way to listen, and everybody listens. But just to soapboxing the hell out of this thing, might as well. Artists don't make any money
Mm.
from Spotify or Apple Music.
They really make
Well,
none.
very, very little. The big artists. So what happened was, it's an interesting story that like most people don't know, is when the very dumb record labels, when Napster came and they were not prepared for the internet, um, and their entire business model was based around selling CDs, right? And Apple came to them and they were like, you should do iTunes and Apple Music, and instead of selling people whole albums, you should let them buy whatever songs they want, just make them $1. And we know you're not going to make money on this, but eventually, once we have everybody in, we're going to charge them more so we can actually pay the artists. And everybody got used to this price, and Apple never raised the price. And they essentially, what they did was they devalued music to a point where if you're like your age or younger, there's not a lot of memory of music costing, like an album itself costing $15, where right now you can spend $15 for all of the music that's ever been made per month, like essentially. So so there's not enough money to pay them. So what would happen was to really pay the artists what they would need to actually make money on it, the price of these subscription services would be like, imagine paying the catalog of every artist who's ever existed. Like, there's just not enough money. So you would be paying hundreds of dollars a month, and people aren't going to do that. So really, what artists use these platforms for are to promote to you, get their music to you, so you will pay to see them in concert or buy a T-shirt or tell somebody else about them who might buy a T-shirt. So we always have the Spotify links and the Apple Music links, but what I would tell you is, or buy vinyl, which I continue to do even though I hate listening to it. If you hear something that you like it, tell somebody else about it. Or
That's really your character in a nutshell.
yeah,
I still buy vinyl even though I hate
yeah.
listening to it. What a sentence! Put that on your
It's
tombstone.
so not convenient. Like 4 songs are over, and you have to get up and go across the room and flip over the record. It sucks. But support them financially if you can, because that's how they make music, and especially now without concerts and things like that. So the album for this week, selected by the Jason Thompson of the Carl Landry Music Club, Andrew Unterberger, is a band called Sheer Mag, which is a Philly band, and the album is A Distant Call. Let me get the listener who...
I am the Arturis Gudaitis of the Carl Landry.
I got to
record.
find the Carl Landry Record Club. I want to find who suggested Sheer Mag, because it was definitely a listener. Sheer Mag, Nick Castagna. So thank you, Nick, for the suggestion. Thanks,
Nick.
We haven't really had any misses. I didn't really love the Justin Bieber album, Journals, but aside from that, I think we've had a bunch of good records. As we should have Bill any moment. As we do, we can probably just go to what else do we have here? He hasn't texted me or anything, so that's good. We already did.
We're doing
commercial. Oh, yeah. Let's do a commercial. Who else are we sponsored by this week? Oh, Adam Kasabi. Right. So the Race to Ricky Sanchez podcast, that's good thinking, Mike, is brought to you by not just a commercial, a word from one of our trusted sponsors. We don't have commercials.
A word from
our trusted sponsor. Adam Kasabi, the official realtor of the process. Selling Delaware Beach real estate. Finally got a Ricky home sold. I believe it's in Rehoboth or almost sold. If there is a funny story that we cannot tell yet, boy, I really hope we can tell the story about the house that got sold. So Adam is selling. His specialty is Delaware Beach real estate. Low property taxes. You're talking about $1,000 a year or less, and also like mortgage rates are low. So we talked about Lewis Beach last time. We're going to talk about Rehoboth this time, which is definitely the one that is most similar to Jersey beaches, and that has a boardwalk, but it's actually clean. It's sort of like a mix between Avalon and Ocean City. Have you been to Rehoboth? I would say it's sort of like a combination of those, just way less crowded.
I'd say I've been to Delaware once, and it was for Delaware twice intentionally in my whole life.
Wow.
Once was for Ricky night at the Sevens or the Blue Coast.
Well, we got to get you to the beaches.
Yeah, got to go to the beaches. Buy yourself
a house. Why not? Rehoboth, really nice restaurants, a boardwalk. Like I said, they've concerts down there. There's a big jazz festival down there. There is, and here's like if you're going to buy one of these, what you want to do is buy it and then rent it out like the rest of the year. And then you go when you go. The best rental incomes are in Rehoboth. Like you can make up to $150,000 a year on rental income. Houses are a little more expensive than the other places, anywhere from like $400,000 to he wrote $15 million. If one of the Ricky listeners buys a $15 million house from Adam, incredible.
I will come sleep there for a weekend. If you buy the $15 million house, you get me when the pandemic is over as a weekend guest.
He had one house. It's actually like 2 or 3 miles outside of Rehoboth. A townhouse for $150,000, which once you get a mortgage for that, that's a really reasonable payment. You're going to rent it out most of the time. Anyway, reach out to Adam, or if you just have a real estate question that isn't about the Delaware beaches, he can help you for that, but he's your guy. 302-864-8643, 302-864-8643. He is obsessed with getting you in a home. Obsessed with it. It's all he thinks about. He doesn't even sleep. Or email adam@processrealtor.com. And that's, by the way, a cell number. You can text it as well. Adam@processrealtor.com. Adam Kasabi, the official realtor of The Process. Oh, shit, there's Bill.
Hey, man.
He's just looking at it.
Oh, no.
He looks frozen.
Frozen. Frozen. I was gonna say that's an intense glare for.
I'm gonna text them and let him know he froze. You know what I should do? I should stop this and start another one. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna stop this and start another one. Okay,
Sure.
Stop recording.
Hi.
Bill, yo, what's up, man?
What's going on?
You just missed the Adam Kasabi ad.
No, I heard the whole thing.
Oh, okay, all right, good. You buying a beach house yet, or what?
Soon, yeah. I mean, maybe that $15 million one. Maybe I'll get
Yeah.
that one and
That's what I like to hear.
and hang out.
Where do you live right now?
Langhorne, just kind of in between. I'm right on the edge of Levtown and Langhorne.
Okay. Where'd you go to high school?
Yeah. Comaligan.
Okay. I went to
Yeah.
Council Rock, South. So.
Oh,
similar...
I used to live in a townhome right across the street.
Wow.
Right down the road from Council Rock.
Do I seem like a guy that would vandalize a house?
You look like a stereotypical Council Rock South person.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
I was trying to think of something else clever to say, but that's all I had.
Just
So
like that.
it doesn't really mean anything. It's just what it's all I had.
That's fine. I didn't really vandalize any houses in high school. We had some pretty intense water balloon fights, but I think that was about as intense as I got as a high schooler.
Yeah,
that
I think
doesn't.
they probably stepped up their game a little bit. Council.
Yeah. All I know
I
about.
did, however. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sophomore year of high school, along with three of my good friends, I was on the Council Rock South bowling team. So,
Oh,
how
were
does
you
that
really?
Really?
right in your face, just like
Oh,
that.
how about that?
What did you average?
I wasn't very good. Me and my friends Tori and Harris mostly just joined to bowl for free, because we had I guess our home lanes was Brunswick Zone.
Yeah,
If you know Brunswick Zone, sure.
road. Yeah.
Yeah, right there. And went to that IHOP a whole lot. And I wasn't very good. I was on like the JV team or whatever. It was mostly just like, and you guys just like have fun. I was probably like averaging like for those few months, it's probably like in the 170s or 180s or something.
Did you have your own ball?
I did, yeah.
All right, there you go. That's
Yeah.
It's a common story from a lot of high school kids, especially that in places like Council Rock where they typically don't have a lot of people that bowl. They just come out and have a good time.
Yeah, it was fun. I enjoy a bowling. Do you count the first game? Because it feels like the first game you're warming up. It should never count. What are your thoughts on the first game?
Well, Mike, I do it professionally, so all the games count.
Okay, this is what we're learning about pro bowl. The games count.
Yeah, so I don't do it for fun anymore. It's it's kind of when I'm not doing it, I don't go in the bowling center at all.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, so here's first of all, Mike was on a high school bowling team. My mom was on a bowling team when I was like 12. Just a side comment. Here's my most important, I think, bowling question. It's not just going to be bowling questions, but I do have a lot of bowling questions.
Sure.
And first of all, by the way, before I get to that, like this comes from the internet. 12-time PBA winner, 2 majors, correct?
Whew.
Yep.
3-time collegiate bowler of the year.
Yep.
Where at? Say where?
Saginaw Valley State.
A bowling powerhouse.
That's home of former Eagle Todd Hermans. So.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, we went to
Very
school at the same time.
That's dope.
30 perfect games in competition. And I have the only bowler to be a world champion twice. You won the WTBA singles title twice, 2010, 2013. All true?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Is that
Fucking
is that on a Wikipedia?
Yeah, you're really good. I mean, you're fucking congratulations on being awesome at it. Like you're legit awesome at it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's been going well. I'm 38 now, and it's wild to think about just bowling at Egan and then progressing all the way through. And fast forward, here I am with just doing what I enjoy doing for a living, and end up being pretty good at it.
But never doing it for fun because it doesn't count.
Now I'll used to do it for fun. Yeah, and you know what? I'll revise my answer. When I did do it for fun, we didn't count the first game. I'll give you that.
There you go.
Yeah,
That's all I need to hear. I was attacking you the whole time.
I just made that up, but I figured you'd like it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So here's the most important question. What weight of ball do I have to use to not look like a fucking weakling? Because I feel like if I'm I can't really bowl anymore because of my back. The last time I bowled, it was some charity thing at South Bowl, and I hurt my back again. But I feel like the 11, 12-pound area is where I'm comfortable. But also, I feel like a real chicken using that. So, what is the weight that I can use without like looking weak?
Right.
And please be mindful of his masculinity.
Yeah. Just for people who don't know, 16 pounds is the highest you can go. That's that's the max. Most people use 15 pounds. So, like for regular league bowlers or even professionals, most people are 15. But you got a bad back, so you use whatever weight that you can. Like, we're not in the position to tell people at this point not to go bowling. We need everybody we can get. So whatever weight you need to use to get yourself in the bowling center, you use that.
Let me ask you this, and Mike, you're the one that's saying that strength is a masculine thing. I'm not. I mean, I'm saying strength is strength. I would think, and I don't know if this has happened in bowling circles or even the conversation, but given what's happened with COVID-19, bowling is an activity that you can do where you don't have to touch anybody. It's physical, like you're all touching the same balls, but it doesn't seem as if that's sort of the thing that people are catching things from. Have you thought about the possibility that maybe this is a recreational activity that comes back or gains popularity because of your ability to sort of like space out and do with a few people?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think. As bowlers in general, we're just pessimistic in general because we never really gain any traction. Nothing really great ever happens. So we always look at the bad, and so we are kind of looking at it like we don't know how people are going to feel when this is all over, coming in and sharing bowling balls and sharing shoes and whatever they have to do to get in there. And a lot of centers, especially in this area, are small. They're between like 12 or 16 lanes. You only have a certain number of corporate-owned centers that are larger. So, these places can't separate in the way that a place like, the Brunswick Zone, it's called Bolero now on Street Road can, because they have so many lanes. So, it's kind of a concern for the, smaller little mom and pop type of centers is how they're gonna do that when people come back. And, I think people are itching to do anything at this point. So maybe people will, go into a bowling center. But we'll see. I think there's so many unanswered questions with everything that we don't know. We're hoping, but we don't know.
For sure. Can you talk about your bowling style? Like, what if you had where do you like to line up, and how has that evolved over the course of like from you as a kid to like your peak?
Yeah. So this is why I love talking to people who don't bowl, because the bowling people always ask me the same questions. Every interview I do would be the same, like 15 questions. I would never get a question like that. And I appreciate it because it's a legitimate question.
I do consider myself a bowling person,
but like I from the people who are like really really super into it, like we never get a question like that. So I appreciate it.
Okay, great.
So like when I was younger, it was more like I would run a lot, for lack of a better word. Like I would just kind of stand a little further back and like run as fast as you can, because that's how you create speed, is through the momentum and you're not actually throwing it with your upper body. You create the speed from your lower body, like kind of like most sports, but especially in bowling, because you don't want to overthrow it, because then you're not going to be consistent. So but when you're kids, that's all you do. You just kind of run around and throw it up there. But as I've gotten older, I've moved up further on the approach, and shortened my steps down quite a bit, and kind of more controlled than I used to be when I was younger.
I first of all, I got engaged in a bowling alley at North Bowl. In
Okay.
the we got engaged in the photo booth at the bowling alley. My wife, who's horrible at bowling, bowled 2 consecutive strikes. I felt like that was the moment. We went into the photo booth, surprised her in there. Um,
So what if she
You
didn't
couldn't
get
wait
that
for the
nice?
turkey?
what's that? We would still be dating. Uh,
No, right?
7 years later, yeah. So
I like that you were like, "Here's you get 2 strikes. If I can't trust that you're going to get a third,
no.
so I gotta."
Okay, another bowling question that hopefully you haven't been asked before. That I was talking with who's I talking with at work today. So bowling. Oh, with Alex, who is the program director of KYW News Radio. We were like, bowling seems like a thing where you should be able to, once you get really good at it, not just bowl a perfect game 30 times, but like the situations don't change, right? They're the same pins, the same lane, same ball. It seems like there's like a ceiling that people should be able to get to and then not get any better. Have people gotten?
But like foul shots are the same.
Yeah, maybe you're right. I guess I didn't think about it that way. Have people gotten better over the last 30 years at bowling, or has it stayed pretty
Yeah.
static?
So this is a great question, because this is the thing that we struggle with as a game to try to get people to understand. Because your question in theory, as you just look at it in a very simplistic way, is accurate, like a foul shot. But our game is entirely invisible. So yeah, the pins are there, the lane's the same length, it's the same width, but there's oil on the lane,
Right.
and so you have to create like an angle into the pins in order to like maximize your chance of striking. So the way that they put oil on the lane, like those machines that go down, people just think that they're cleaning the lane, but that's not really what they're doing. They're placing oil on the lane, and they can put them at different lengths, different volumes, different shapes, and it all changes every time. And the balls that we use are completely different than the balls you would get at your local bowling center. So the ones at the local bowling center are just made of this incredibly hard material, so they're not absorbing anything going down the lane. That's why you can't like hook them the same way that we would, or any people in leagues. So like also as the balls are hooking, they're absorbing and picking up the oil as they go down the lane. So you're constantly fighting a invisible moving target, because you don't know. Like for us, when we bowl as professionals, we bowl one game on a certain pair of lanes, and then we move to another. So as if we bowl 8 games in a row, we're not necessarily sure who was just on the pair that we're going to now, and they could be pulling the oil up from different spots on the lane. So there's a lot of experience that go into that to see like, hey, where do I think I should be standing here and throwing, and try to achieve that desired angle.
Sort of like a putting green, almost like the lane.
Exactly. The
Right.
similarities between bowling and golf are immense. There's a lot of them. It's a really, really similar type of sport, except everything in golf is visible. All the obstacles are visible.
And you guys aren't assholes taking up acres and acres and acres and acres of land. You're just taking up like one small spot.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I'm not an anti-golf guy. I like to golf, so I'm not going to go down that road.
Okay.
But,
All right. Fair enough. I'm not really an anti.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but there generally being more oil on the lane means there is less spin on the ball, or the spin will be less effective. Is that correct?
Yeah, because the ball's essentially hydroplaning. So it's
Wow.
like it's like car tires on ice. If you have like the better tires that have more tread, they have a chance to grip that ice, and the same way with bowling balls in oil. That's why you see if you see it, like when you watch us bowl on television and you see the ball go down lane, all of a sudden it gets to a certain point and then it starts to go the other direction. That's because it's coming out of the oil and actually able to grab the back part of the lane that doesn't have the oil on it, and it can make it hook. And that's when I go and there's certain things that we do where with people who don't bowl, and they just decide they're going to run down the lane, and they're like, they slip and fall, and they don't have any idea why they've just fallen.
I had no idea. And has there ever been? You guys are talking about like hooking, and I was always jealous when I like would bowl with somebody, I'm like, oh man, they can curve it in there. I
Yeah.
can't. Has there ever been anybody that's good that did it like straight or no?
Well, back in like when kind of it first started, like in the 50s and 60s and even into the 70s, yeah, that's how they all bowled. They just threw it right down kind of the middle of the lane. It was
Wow.
all just basically about strictly accuracy and like, can I hit this thing? And I'll, because those balls were kind of similar to the ones that you use in your local centers. They're not really doing anything to the lane, but as technology has changed, it's more advantageous to try to hook it. And there's guys who throw it a little bit straighter, and that's kind of, we have to be able to, as professionals, be able to throw it a little bit straighter, hook it a little bit more, and so on.
Kind of like the Bob Cousy of bowling.
Yes.
So everyone just kind of dribbling like nice and
That's
high.
a perfect comparison. Yes.
Are you more confident in hitting the 7-pin or the 10-pin?
Probably. I mean, as a professional, you should probably make it like 98% of the time. But obviously,
sure.
We're all human. But I would probably say the 7-pin, just because you're kind of going across. I would throw it across the lane where, I don't know. I'd probably say the 7-pin. If I had to make one of them to win a tournament, I would probably choose the 7.
Huh. Okay, that's fair.
So I'm not throwing it necessarily toward the better.
Right. Do you change your position for the 10? Do you cross the other side of the lane?
Yeah. So I would.
I'm asking all the hard hitting bowling questions. This is what you're getting.
So you side like you move further left because you want to use more of the lane. If you're standing further to the right, you're not using enough of the lane to hit the pin in the corner. So you want to kind of use more of that so you can go across the lane and give you a little bit more room for error.
Spike, this is all I can see your learn. I'm watching you learn.
Yeah, I'm
a special moment.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot of stuff because bowling is something that everybody's bowled, and I bowled a lot when I was younger, and I never watching it for some reason, some fucking stupid reason. I guess if you had asked me, I would have known there's a lot more to it than I'm watching, like with every sport, but I just never considered it. So this is all like really interesting to me.
Well, that's really our fault. Like we've done a very poor job over like the last 30, 40 years of not really properly educating people. But we usually get 90 minutes or 2 hours to have a telecast per week. So it's not a ton of time to like really dive into, the minutia of the game. But I think at some point, like, I don't know if you remember watching poker back in the day when it started, they would go through like the list of hands and like, hey, 2 pair beats this and flush beats this. And like for people who play poker, that seemed like a waste of time. But it really, I think, kind of able to educate people of what the game actually is. And I think that's something that we missed out on.
Yeah.
Are generally, I was watching like YouTube stuff, and most bowlers look like they're in good shape. Is that like do you have to be like in good physical condition to bowl, or you can be like John Kruk?
Take off your shirt.
Well, like who's in better condition, the average professional bowler or Joel Embiid right now? Like after being off for 2.5 months, would you say?
I would still say Joel Embiid. Yeah.
For sure. Okay.
Because you know what? He's a lot taller, so it's stretched out.
Okay.
Yeah. Sure. As somebody who's I'm only a 5'8", so that's an excuse I've used over the course of my life. Is that just not tall enough? It's just not. It's not stretching out enough. But yeah, when we have to be in fair shape, I would say.
Okay.
You're going to have people who aren't in great shape. Like I'm not in that I would consider great shape. But in order to do it for a long time, the better the shape you're in, the longer your career is going to be. Because for us, the major injuries are knees and backs. So the less weight you have on yourself, we are sliding on I'm right-handed, so I slide on my left leg, and it's just like the thousands upon thousands of times that I've thrown a ball, I'm literally keeping myself upright on one leg, sliding. So like if you think about compound that over time, the more weight you have on top of you, the harder it is. So you don't want to be like, it's probably a disadvantage if you're super muscular, because you want to be a little bit more flexible, have a freer range of motion. So like you don't want to be super muscular, but being out of shape is no good either, because we do, in a lot of tournaments, bowl a lot of games.
How old were you when you got your first fingertip ball?
So the confusion on Spike's face right now is probably he has.
Yeah, what's that?
We're gonna go back. We're gonna
Okay.
explain that. So so the balls using the house balls in the local center are drilled with these like massive finger holes in because they want to try to make sure everybody can get their hand in the ball.
Right.
There's no way you can throw those balls like that. So the actual way that you fit your hand and drill a ball is that, especially as you get a little bit older, is you only put your hand in until the tips of your fingers. Varying either side of the tips of your fingers, but they fit snug, so they're tight. And the same, you would put that in, and you would drill a hole that is a little bit tighter. Not so big that you have to your knuckle hits the back of the hole. So that's what the fingertip ball is. They put the inserts in. They put they're called grips, and they put them inside a standard size hole, and then to fit your hand. So. To answer your question, I would say I think I was maybe 10, something
So
like that.
were you good right away?
Not crazy.
Were you when did you start being good? Like when was it natural or did you just love it?
Yeah, so my whole family was into it. Like my dad, was bowling leagues. My grandfather was bowling a lot of leagues and bowling a lot of local tournaments, and so I was into it from a very young age. I mean, good, I guess, is relative to age and whatnot. I wasn't beating my dad until I was who knows, 13 or 14 probably. And then, I mean, as I was always kind of trying not to sound egotistical, but as far as I was always kind of the better, one of the better ones in high school, and then in youth events, and then into college.
You're a professional bowler, I think, and a champion at that.
Yeah.
I think you could
You
tell people you're better than other people in high school. That's probably.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I kicked everybody's ass. Let's be honest.
There you
go.
go.
I actually go ahead.
Are you good at other sports? What other sports do you consider yourself an athlete that can do other stuff?
Yeah, so when I was younger, I played baseball, and I was decent at it. Basketball a little bit, and then I stopped growing. And then I would say golf is probably my best sport outside of bowling. And I have two younger kids and a wife who works full time, so my golf game has gone down the tubes because I don't get to play a whole lot. But I mean, I would consider myself I would say I guess an average athlete.
Because in baseball, you talk about oh, this pitcher's a really good athlete. And you're generally well, it doesn't really matter. They're just kind of pitching. Once in a while, they have to run off the mound to field something and get it, but it's not a ton of times per game, and they're obviously not counting on them to bat much or at all anymore. Are there but the understood wisdom in baseball scouting is that that you can then tweak their delivery in minor ways that that allow them to bloom and improve. Are there things within bowling that are oh, this is an athletic trait that you wouldn't necessarily think is necessary in bowling that actually makes you more your precision to be even better?
That's a really interesting question. I hadn't really ever thought about it, what that would be. I mean,
we're asking all.
It really is. It's interesting. Hand-eye coordination is really important. So it's not. You can really. It's kind of a natural type of gift, I guess. Because your typical definitions of athleticism, running fast and jumping high, and lateral quickness, and all these things aren't really, and they don't apply, for us.
Right.
So as far as your general definition of athleticism, I don't know. I don't know how much it really, I guess, applies to bowling, because we have a lot of guys who, are good at a lot of different things. One of the best. The most accomplished bowler of all time, his name's Walter Ray, was a world champion horseshoe pitcher. He would because he for him it was the same type of thing, was this hand-eye coordination thing, and he was one of the best horseshoe pitchers of all time. So it just depends on, I guess, what you consider an athletic endeavor.
We were talking about the Sixers playing in an empty gym earlier before you got on. And I want to ask you about that in regard to what you do. But first, we have one more commercial to do. And if you're a Ricky listener, you know the original sponsor of the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast, Bill. I mean, you must know, right?
Yeah, LL Pavorsky.
LL Pavorsky Jewelers. I want to set a scene for everyone. Like, it's been a heavy few days across the country, and the image that I'm about to paint you, I think was very, very, like, made me smile. Was I texted Lee to ask how the store was, to hopefully that, like, nobody broke the glass and hadn't been looted. And he was like, we're very lucky. He was like, just one small break in the glass. He's like, Jake and Jeffrey who works there, and Jake, my son, his son, are going to go help me.
Your son.
Yeah, my son. Are going to help me board up the store tomorrow. And because I asked him if he needed help. And I just imagined Lee in a suit and Jake in a diaper outside of LL Pavorsky Jewelers hammering the boards onto the windows. And I got warm, I had a smile. I was like, what a father-son bonding activity. 100 degrees, LL in full suit, boarding up the windows. So, yeah.
That's nice.
Good to hear that LL store is okay. LL Pavorsky, as Bill mentioned, is the first, he might not be the presenting sponsor, but he's the first fucking sponsor, and that means a lot. Without LL, nobody else would have ever advertised on this podcast until he forced us to do it. And look at us now, still recording podcasts. LL up to 107 during the quarantine era. He has sold 2 more rights to Ricky Sanchez listeners' engagement rings, numbers 1 and 174. If you buy one through June, you get a $250 Fans of Philly gift card. Lee will treat you to. I don't know what the situation is with Philadelphia and Yellow Phase on Friday, whether that's still happening, given in everything that's happening. But even if it isn't, LL can take care of you on the phone. Any sort of video chat that you would like to do, he'll do, except for, which one can't he do? Oh, he can't do FaceTime because he fucking hates Apple products. But aside from that, very, very, very good guy. He can hook you up from home. He can do video chat. He does curbside pickup. He can send it to you. Go to llpavorsky.com or just send him an email, lee@llpavorsky.com, and he'll take care of you until the store is open once again. LL has always been a supporter of our charities since the first time he started sponsoring the pod, like 4 years ago. 2017 is when he started. I think, or maybe even 2016.
I think it was before that. Yeah, it feels like it's been
Yeah. Yeah, I was looking at our traffic, our list of commercials, but he started before we listed commercials. It was just him. So always been a supporter of our charities, coded by kids in Providence Animal Center right now. And he's the best. LL Pavorsky Jewelers.
Now that's a strike. How sick of you are of puns, of bowling puns are you?
Oh, it drives me insane. Yeah, and
Yeah, I
like,
bet.
I get it from, you get it from family. Everybody, we,
Sure.
I'm sure my wife won't appreciate what I'm about to say, but when 10 years ago, her family gave us bought us all these ceramic bowls and dishes, and they were all like bowling pins, and the top of the bowl was in the shape of. I'm like, come on, I can't get it. Even every time I open my cabinets, I have to be reminded this is what I do.
That's good.
Well, it's sort of like, I remember when I got a cat for the first time, all of a sudden everybody was like, oh, we know what kind of birthday cards we'll get them. And if we don't know what to get them for a birthday, we'll get a cat card, and here's a cat book. And all I thought about was cats, It feels like bowling has become your cat card. Your wife is a professional bowler too, right?
No,
Am I crazy?
She's not a professional, but she did bowl in college. She went to Fairleigh Dickinson.
Okay.
And she was part of a national championship team.
Well, did you meet in a bowling setting, or was it just
it happens.
coincidence?
It happens a lot.
Okay.
With, a lot of bowling people end up together because we're just always around each other, And but she's younger than me, and we lived. She grew up in Croydon, so she only grew up 10 minutes away from each other, and we didn't know each other throughout high school or college, and. From when I was in college, and I met her after my first year professionally. I was in a bowling center, and her dad wanted me to give her lessons, and that's how we met. Yeah.
Wow.
Oh wow!
Come on.
I was saying we were talking about the empty gyms, and in the big bowling like when I'm watching the bowling on TV, there's a crowd and they cheer and it's like all there. I have to imagine some of them, it's not like that. I'm curious as to like how a crowd affects you bowling because it seems like such a concentration thing, and it almost seems like it would be like counterproductive to like get juiced up if the crowd was into it.
So we have two scenes now when we bowl. We have the like serious crowd, in our bigger events that they just kind of just sit there and they cheer when the ball hits the pins, but you can't. You can hear a pin drop in the center. And then we go to this other place it's a Bayside Bowl in Portland, Maine, and these people they're bowlers like say Mike, and they enjoy bowling, but they probably wouldn't consider themselves like bowlers, right? And they cheer from the moment they step into the bowling center. They tailgate the event like a real sport, and a lot of the bowling purists hate them because they're not your typical crowd. And every professional bowler I know would rather compete in that environment than the quiet environment. Yeah,
really?
Really?
Anxiety, imagine you're doing anything and there's several hundred people staring at you in just utter silence, and the anxiety is just it's crazy. And so if anybody moves in their seat or coughs or anything, it sounds like the loudest thing you ever heard, and it can be very distracting. But when there's people constantly yelling and screaming, it just becomes white noise, and you don't hear anything. And then it actually it's when you do something good, the feeling is a lot better because there's just the crowd there that's pumping you up.
What about like a taunting, or like if there was like a home and away situation where people were booing you as you went up?
Yeah, I would enjoy it if I knew it was coming. If there's we're silent and then someone just jumps out in the lane with a sign or something like that and starts yelling at me, that would be that would be tough. But if I knew they were doing it the whole time, it would be it would be kind of cool. I always wondered how would I bowl if people had those thunder sticks like they do at basketball games, behind the shoot foul shot.
Yeah.
Right.
How would that
Or
go?
just one guy yelling "nice ball, idiot," that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I just was reminded of I got into a bowling argument once with I had this horrible girlfriend right at the end of college and right after college, and she was from New Hampshire, and she asked, and I visited her parents' house once, and she asked if I wanted to go bowling, and we went, and everybody had these little tiny bowling balls. And I was like, well, this isn't bowling. And she was like, yes, it is. This is bowling. And I was like, I've never seen anything like this before. I don't know what you're talking about. This is not regular bowling. And she goes, oh, do you mean big ball bowling? And I'm like, big ball bowling is actually bowling. What you're talking about is something else. And the fight was about what just plain bowling was. And to me, regular bowling is the big ball. I'm right? Candlepin bowling is not regular bowling.
No, it isn't. And so candlepin bowling is how you thought bowling was. Everything is exactly the same all the time. It is actually
really?
Much more difficult to achieve a higher score, but there's no nuance to the game at all. These candle pins they're set up very far apart, which makes it harder to hit them, especially with the small ball. And it's hard. I've done it maybe twice because they have it up in Maine when we go up there, and I've done it a couple times. I don't particularly enjoy it, but I've done it. It's it's certainly different.
Not real bowling, man. It's not real bowling. Yeah.
What an argument to have.
Yeah. All we did was
imagine
fight.
showing up at a place and you're just like, this isn't bowling. That's such a strange place to be. It's not something I'd ever.
It's how you know a relationship's going down the tubes. Is that's what sets off an argument.
It was
for real.
It was one of those things where everybody after it was over was like, I mean, I didn't want to say anything, but yeah.
What is your favorite part of bowling? What is the thing you're like, that's my shit? I love that shit.
like any like competitor, it's the competition. So it's really not necessarily the bowling itself. It's the competing. Like I loved the we fail so much more than you succeed. Like I've been bowling on tour since 2005, and I have 12 titles, and we bowl 20 events a year. So just the winning and that achievement of knowing that you won something that everybody that does what you do wants to achieve, and you got there, and so that's like that's the thing that like keeps you going and drives you.
Is when you're against, if it's a one-on-one situation, and say it's the final, what's going through your head when the other person is bowling? Are you just like, you miss it, this piece of shit? Like,
of course.
Like, what's the
I
word?
tell guys in bowling all the time. We always like talk about people always talk about sportsmanship and all that. It's all crap. Nobody wants anybody else to truly succeed, and that's why like golf always bothers me when they talk about that stuff, because they're thinking the same thing. Like I'm hoping that when I'm bowling somebody in the final, I hope that they trip and fall, and then the ball goes down the lane. That's what I'm truly hoping for. And
has that ever happened?
Yes, actually, a couple times. I maybe not against me. Like I hasn't happened. But so there was a guy. His name's Josh. He sometimes like the thumb inserts that we use are interchangeable. So we can take them out and put them in every ball that we have. And sometimes they get stuck, and they move whatever. He threw a ball and he couldn't get his thumb out. He hung on to the ball, and he went on. He went onto the lane. He slipped and he fell, and it's a horribly embarrassing moment. Yeah, it was a horribly embarrassing moment.
Is there anything against the rules to a professional bowler in a professional bowling match having like AirPods in or something, like headphones?
Yes. Yeah, you can't wear headphones. There's two different organizations that kind of run bowling. It's PBA and then USBC. And the USBC is like the USGA in golf. They're the membership organization, and they so some of the tournaments we have different rules because of that. But yeah, no. Now they let us the PBA. You can be on your phone. You can text and putz around on Twitter or Facebook or something. Which I always found odd, but they let us do it.
I kind of wanted you to listen to the pod during just one bowl, but it doesn't seem like it's possible.
Well, if you maybe we have on when we're on TV, we're allowed to give them songs that we can play whenever we throw a strike. So maybe if you make up maybe Michael Rapp or something, and we can put that on, we could play that song.
You got me pegged. What are your songs? What are your strike songs?
I'm a pretty one-dimensional music person. I would not be able to add to the pick an album and listen to it for next week's show. I wouldn't be able to do that.
Okay.
I'm a hip hop guy, and that's kind of how I wish I was had a little bit more broad range of music taste. But I usually go back and forth between some sort of Meek Mill or Jay-Z would be where I would go.
Okay. I can't imagine Meek Mill's in much bowling.
No, I haven't seen him. I haven't run into him yet.
But even like bowling, it just doesn't seem like
not many.
I don't know.
Not many
Rap
Rolls
doesn't seem
pull up to the parking lot in a home center.
Yeah, for real.
Do people bet? People bet on bowling. I bet, right? You can bet. Are there DraftKings odds in bowling?
No. So that's something that we would love to have, but people don't know how to handicap it.
Right.
I don't think people really know enough to be able to do it. And you would have to set, because the prizes aren't a ton of money. You have to set like very small maximums on bets, because there would be guys out there that probably
fix it. Yeah.
But we would like to get that in some sort of like. We bowled in Vegas. We bowled there a bunch, but there was one time we had for a TV show. They set odds in the sports book for the 5 finalists, but not really. And I think it would be great if we could do that, because it's something that, bowling breeds degenerates in general. It's a gambling sport, so like, and sports in general is built around gambling, really. So it would be nice that we could get into that world a little bit, but it's not there yet.
What is the worst game you've bowled in the last 20 years?
I think I bowled like a sub 120 game, like in a few years back. Yeah.
Wow. What happened?
Yeah.
Which I knew I wouldn't
That's
have been in that position. It's just one of those things. Sometimes like you just everything. It's just a collection of errors, and like every time you throw something bad happens, and then you have this like horrible game going, and then you start to get like super anxious about it, and you can't repeat your shots right because you're mentally not there, and then it just snowballs, and then next thing you know you're taking your balls to the next pair with a 120 game.
Wow. Can you just like go to the bathroom and just not come back?
I've thought about I've
like the
certainly
middle of the
thought
game,
about
be
doing
like-
that. Yeah. Just like that's it. Just put my shoes on and just like never and just not come back.
For the last 10 minutes, all I've been thinking about is bringing a bunch of Right Ricky Sanchez listeners to one of your matches and being fucking so loud and obnoxious cheering for you.
It would be the highlight of my life, I think. I think that would be incredible. We don't bowl enough around this area, which stinks. But
what's the closest?
So we were supposed to bowl in. There's a big Bolero Center on Route 1 in New Brunswick, New Jersey.
Okay.
So we were actually supposed to have the finals of our we have a playoff like the golf does with our FedEx Cup. It's kind of the same thing. And the final four was supposed to be there. It was supposed to be middle of May, but obviously it got canceled, like everything else. But that's the closest. We don't actually have too many like long running tournaments that are that close.
I gotta tell you, it feels like a fans of Philly trip. Like I
think all those people would love to go to Portland, Maine. I think would be the place that would
go to Portland, Maine. Yell at our friend.
It's nice.
A great city. It's a great city. It's a really good summer city too. It's a really cool place to hang out.
Yeah, I remember like looking up places like where can you bring your dog on vacation, and Portland, Maine was like was near top of the list. I remember looking at it. Honestly, how far of a drive is Portland, Maine? Like 8 hours?
It's like it depends. You have to go over like in through New York, and so you never know. But it's like on a good day, you're looking at like maybe 6.
Oh, that's a bus trip, man. We can bring 2 buses to your fucking. There's no doubt in my mind. That's happening.
You never know. Maybe you can get Brett Brown to show up.
Yes, right.
That's true.
Yeah.
The whole thing. I'm trying to figure out if I can do this. If I show you my bowling form, will you
analyze it? Yeah.
Tell me how it is? Yeah. Okay. I'm going to take my headphones off, and I'm going to try to tilt my camera down so you can see where my legs go. Okay,
so for the podcast listeners, I'll narrate for just the listeners out the video. So now we're looking at Mike's tissues, which are right by the computer.
You can't really see it super well, but you'll see it from the back. Just look at my ass the whole time.
Okay. So Mike's bowling from behind. There we go.
That's not bad. That wasn't bad. Yeah.
Could you see any of
that? Yeah. I mean, you could do without the hop.
I like the hop.
Probably would have to go. But yeah, the form in general is pretty solid. I mean, I don't know how you look with a heavier weighted object than a box of tissues, but the form itself is nice.
I needed to hear.
Dude, you're great. I'm sorry, like it took so long to have you on. Like you are. Trust me. Like the next time, do you have something? You guys are bowling again, right? I mean, like bowling is happening again, or are you guys?
Oh
like...
yes, no, I'm glad you mentioned that. So Saturday we're actually back live on television. We're doing just a made-for-TV type event. It's in the only place that will have professional sports now is Florida, so that's where we have to go.
Wow.
And so we're there at 7:00 on Fox on Saturday night. So what I wanted to do,
yes.
I'm a long-time listener of this podcast.
And thank you. By the
not
way.
to get like super sentimental, but like I travel a lot, and I get I'm on the road a ton throughout the year. I get homesick, and this podcast is one that like kind of keeps me, thinking about home, and it gets me through the tough times on the road. So, because of that, I wanted to kind of give back a little bit, and so I'm going to give 10% of whatever I make in this event on Saturday to Coded by Kids.
Oh shit!
Yeah,
Oh man,
Oh
yeah.
wow, that's
I
great.
love
You
that.
better win.
I hope so.
If you come up with a 120, that'd be a
Yeah.
real bummer.
See, in this one, I can't because what we're doing is Now we can ask you since you guys, don't watch bowling a ton. Would you watch something like we're doing a strike derby? It's called. So basically, we're going to just get randomly matched up against somebody else, and we will whoever throws the most strikes in 2 minutes
Yes.
wins.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
I'm
I like that.
That's how
I'm
we're gonna
watching.
do it.
I'm watching. Maybe I'll try to find a way. I've never done this before, but maybe I'll try to find a way to do a Zoom watch thing on the computer. Invite people in to watch. We can all watch at the same time.
Yeah, and then maybe if they're kind enough, I can mention this all. Maybe they'll shout it out on the show.
Yeah,
Which would be cool.
That's dope. How's it gonna work? Like, is it like for a 3-point contest, you have like the rack of balls that you can just like step into it. For the bowling, you have to like run back and then do it again and run back and do it again.
We'll be on 2 lanes and we'll be able to go back and forth. And then we have obviously there's machines that set the pins, so sometimes they malfunction. So they'll if that happens, they'll they'll adjust the clock and we've only really done this like maybe one other time, but these are different
really
times.
cool.
So we have to we found a way to get Fox gave us a time slot on Saturday night, so we have to find a way to make that work.
So this is athleticism. Like you're gonna have to be like shuttling around the ball return. You're gonna be like maybe you'll jump over something. that'll be braggy for how athletic you are.
Maybe if I have if I know that I'm gonna beat the guy or something, I can do something like that. Maybe I'll hurdle the ball return and throw it between my legs or something.
Well, how many strikes do you
that.
think you can bowl in 2 minutes? Like, what's the number in your head that you?
I don't know.
the over-under.
I'm not. We don't do. We'd never do this. They don't even practice it. So I don't. I don't know. I'll probably when I get down there. I'm going down Friday, so maybe I'll have to try to work it out.
Well, so how many? If you're going fast, you could probably get what, 15 throws in 2 minutes.
I guess. Yeah. I guess it all depends on how fast the ball comes back and all of these things that we're not real sure of. So, and then when you're
gonna have multiple balls.
Yeah. So I'll use two different ones, and then I'll use one on each lane, so I don't have to worry about the ball coming back. But yeah, I mean, and since we're not used to bowling that fast, if you're not careful, you'll get out of rhythm, and your timing is all goofy, and you won't be able to throw the shot right. So you got to be careful of all that too. So a little bit more strategy than just
I bet you hit 10. I bet you hit 10 strikes. I feel good about you hitting at least 10 strikes.
10 would be a good number. I think if you gave me 10, I would take that in every round and then see how it goes.
Wow, this is exciting.
Well, thank you so much, man.
Yeah.
This is the first sporting event in which I've cheered for somebody since March 11th. I haven't cheered for it. I watched like 4 seconds of UFC. I haven't even watched. I didn't watch that golf thing last weekend. So you're our new Sixers for at least the next.
There you go, new Sixers.
Well, that's great. I think we're going to be on doing something in July too before they start back up. So
awesome. But thank you for joining us. We will be back on Sunday. Do you want to say the thing at the end of the podcast?
Yeah, let him make him say the thing. Come on.
Oh, see, I was hoping I got a jigsaw, but that's all right.
Oh, come on.
Hold on. Let me just find one from a listener. Hold
right.
on. I have a lot of listenner submitted jigsaws. Let me just get one.
Guy wants a jigsaw. Spike lets him down. Fucking.
That's the reason why I came on.
What a house.
While you're looking that up, I'd tell you that the real reason why I wanted to donate to the charity is in hopes that I could end up in a super passive-aggressive tweet about me donating money to charity, unlike other professional athletes that might have played for the team. So,
and he's even writing tweets for his Spike. Come on.
I can guarantee you that you will get one of those. Hold on. All right, hold on. I'm searching jigsaw in the Ricky email.
I'll ask more bowling questions while we wait. How good are you with your offhand?
Really
left-handed.
bad.
If you're
really comically bad. There's some guys who are pretty good at it, but it's real. Like if I did it with my left hand, the odds of me breaking probably 100 would be low.
Yeah. Have you, in a professional setting, have you thrown a first ball gutter ball?
Oh, tons of times, yeah. Yeah, because
Yeah.
Because of those oil patterns I was talking about before, sometimes they're we can go as low as like 32 feet. So like you have half the lane that only like just a little bit more than half the lane that's oiled. So you have to throw it near the gutter in order to give yourself enough room. So yeah, so tons of times.
And do you know how, like, does it say this lane is oiled
Yeah, so
from
all
this
the
many
lanes are
feet?
all the same to start. Typically, sometimes we have events where it's every other lane, but yeah, they'll tell us beforehand, like, hey, this is they post there's graphs that they print out from the oil machines that they'll post in the locker room that has what's on there.
Um,
That's pretty cool. How tired of you?
yeah.
Last one. How tired of you are you of those like incredibly cheesy like spare graphics that they pop up on the of different sort of lanes when it's like a mouse like high fiving like a goat.
uh, Typically, when if I'm going to like practice and stuff, I'll tell them just to turn the lane on and like leave the monitor off, just so I don't have to look at those things and like the things singing to you after you make it spare or something. Yeah,
Yeah, like
yeah,
turkeys like doing
yeah.
the hora or
I
something like
gotta
that.
say, I do think that the electronic scoring, because I'm old enough to remember when bowling, like when you scored it, I think electronic scoring kind of ruined the experience a little bit because it made it go too fast. Like when you had to keep score, it felt like a more social thing. Like the electronic scoring bowling goes too quickly. That's
Yeah, well,
my
and
thing.
nobody has any idea how to keep score.
Right. I remember
So
how to keep score.
it's a very difficult. It's one other thing that kind of hurts us is that it's if you go there and you don't even know how to keep your own score,
Right.
it's a tough thing
Yeah.
to get people to get invested in when they're like, I don't even know what's happening here.
Yeah.
I like that you're thinking about like trying to make it broader and trying to bring more
I
people
so
in.
one of my best friends, his name is Jason Belmonte. He's the number one bowler in the world. He's certainly our most visible bowler. We have these conversations constantly, and just trying to think of ways that we could possibly reach a broader audience. And I think the scoring system is certainly one of those things.
Well, I don't know if we were broad, but you're certainly going to get a
Yeah.
weird cult-like audience out of it. Out of this,
There
yeah.
you go.
All right. So this jigsaw came from Robbie.
You gotta play this
Oh
song.
yeah. Well, then you're gonna have to ask another question because I'm gonna have to bring it up in my fucking phone because I don't know how to do it with this video thing.
I've always wondered this do you play the song for other guests?
No.
That kind of
No.
just ruined it for me because I just every
Yeah.
time I hear it, I always just imagine that Brett Brown had to listen to clips of Doug Collins before he answered like that
Yeah.
made it great for me.
No, and actually, when Brett Brown was doing it, I don't think we even had the theme because some of his answers
'Cause
are
he's
in that. So,
Oh,
so here we go.
Play.
I will play this game.
Game and play.
I will play this game.
I miss you.
I will play this game.
I'm worried. Play.
I will play this game.
And after the game, they were interviewing him, and they said, how does it feel to win the ultimate game? And he said, if it's the ultimate game, why are they playing it again next year?
There you go. If it's the ultimate,
you play it on your phone. I wasn't anticipating you just putting the phone up to the
wow.
mic. I thought.
well, we don't. So we normally don't have the ability. Like I normally just pause and then put it in there and post.
Right.
You never hear it.
Oh, okay. All right.
So
all right.
I wanted you to hear it. So there
Yeah.
you go. All right.
Pretty
So
good.
this comes from Robbie. Two options, and I've only barely read this. So this is for the rest of your life. Option one: you can only ever go 30 minutes without needing to pee. After 30 minutes, you can still hold it for a time, but it will be very uncomfortable. Think long family road trip and you've been in the back seat needing to go for 2 hours, but your dad wants to beat the crowds at the Grand Canyon and won't make any stops. Uncomfortable. However long you can hold it, once you relieve yourself, the clock will reset, and in another 30 minutes, you'll have to go again. This is only while you're awake, so sleeping is unaffected, and there are no adverse health implications due to the situation. Option number two: you only need to pee on average once a day, but it will occur randomly and without warning. It can happen while you're awake or asleep. Once you need to go, you'll have 30 seconds before you lose all bladder control and wet your pants. It will be a large volume of urine. This is on average, so you could occasionally go 0 times a day, and some days twice, meaning you go early in the morning, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're in the clear for the rest of the day. Again, there are no adverse health implications.
So the first one is you have to go every 30 minutes, but you don't actually have to go. It just feels like you need.
Yeah,
to
you
pee.
really got to go. Like you'd be like like you're not gonna wet your pants, but like you can't think about anything else. I think is where it is.
I wet my pants in a standing outside of a hotel room in Ocean City, New Jersey.
How
Was the
re-
last time I wet my pants. Oh, I was 15 or 16
Okay.
or something like that, and it was like I'd come out of the pool and was like went with a group of family friends and was like knocking on people's doors, and so somebody answered the door too late and I peed myself.
This
So.
is a tough. This is a tough one. But I think the first one. I feel like as I get older, I might be headed for that fate anyway.
Yeah.
And the thought of like competing on live television and then just immediately wetting myself would be tough to recover from.
Bring some eyes to the
I
sport.
think
Yeah.
it would. We'd end up on some interesting websites and
Yeah.
maybe get some traction there, but I'd have to wear black pants all the time.
Yep.
I don't know if I could do that.
She can do the half hour.
I think I have to do the half hour one. I think
I
have
gotta
to.
say, Mike.
Neither are great.
Point, right?
I would probably do the random thing. It's not like, look, if I have IBS, so like that's basically what it's like on the other end of things. So having like you have 30 seconds to pee at any given time, I'm good to pee. Like you give me 30 seconds, I could get there. I'll pee in a sink, like whatever it takes, it's fine.
I agree with Mike. We rarely agree. The idea of going to the bathroom and having to pee every 30 minutes. And like Bill, I'm 43. I pee a lot, like more than I used to, but it's not every 30 minutes. And like every 30 minutes sounds like a nightmare.
Also, you have to remember that I have 2 kids, so there's a lot of times where I don't have 30 seconds. There's just no chance that in any way that I'm going to have 30 seconds. Like I could be in the middle of doing something for the one, and I don't. There's no way I'm going to be able to make it.
I would have to pee 3 times during any given podcast.
Yes.
Hey, I listened, last week and Butch peed as soon as he got on the show. So
Yeah. Yep.
left right in the middle,
Yeah.
right as soon as he got on, I clicked on the thing and just left the pee. So
That's true.
I left it in there. I was hoping you wouldn't listen. I was like, it's too funny that he said he had to pee.
yeah, it made me feel a lot easier about doing the interview. I was like, well,
Yeah.
clicked on the
There
pee.
you go.
Yep.
There you
All
go.
right.
All right. So it's Saturday at what
7
time on
o'clock.
Fox?
All right.
7 o'clock Eastern on Fox.
And
That's exciting. All right, cool.
10% decoded by kids. That's really
got it.
cool of you.
Yeah.
Thank you, man. We
No
appreciate
problem.
it.
Thank you, man.
Thank you for coming. Well, you're going to say the thing. Are you down with TTP?
Yeah, lick face.
Yes.